And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
What's up, RBLR Nation? What's up, guys? Hope y'all are having a pretty good week. Unfortunately, no Bucs game this week. Their season's over. We're kind of just chilling, watching some other playoff teams play some football games. Still a good time, still some fun, but unfortunately, not nearly as fun as it was when the Bucs were actually, playing. But still some big news happened this week, some big things around the NFL as well as with the Bucs. We'll kind of do a little brief thing about the little playoffs because, it's fun. It's football. But first I got to introduce my co-host, Musab Tariq. Say hello to the people. Say what's up to him.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Always happy to be here. Shout out to Carter. Shout out to Zach for my co-host out here tonight. It's always a pleasure. Obviously, this past weekend was a little different than usual because, we didn't see our Buccaneers play, but still had some good times, I guess. I still love the game of football, but it is different, and it's, there's a side of me that thinks that, there are some changes needed to be made in all kinds of ways, but, we'll get on that throughout the whole offseason and all that. But, yeah, back to you, Carter.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you mentioned, last but not least, Mr. Zach Blaine, the Blaine Train. Say what's up to the people for me.
What is going on, beautiful people, and the two most beautiful people, Musab and Carter? How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing well.
Yeah, good.
I don't know if I'm feeling beautiful, but,
Hey, you know what? That's irrelevant because you are. That's all that matters.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You are welcome.
All right. Well, after our flirtations before the show, let's get on to some football. Around the league, the championship week, it's Bengals versus Kansas City, and San Fran versus Philly. Y'all got any predictions? Who y'all think's going to the Super Bowl? We'll do the winning the Super Bowl once that matchup's actually established. But who do y'all got going to the Super Bowl? Masab, we'll start with you.
For me, it's going Eagles Bengals. That's my little matchup I got right there. I think the Bengals chemistry looks nice, and the Eagles are hot. They really are, honestly, and
for sure.
I think this little Brock Purdy story / with the rest of the 49ers is going to end now. I mean, I think it's been absolutely phenomenal as to what they've done. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to the two finalists, the Super Bowl champion and the runner-up. Actually, who gives a crap about the runner-up? But,
right, exactly.
It's really the Super Bowl champion, and then, the runner-up is just there because they make it this, like, the Super Bowl. That's another story. But, yeah, that's where I see it. I'm going Cincy, Philly in the finals just because, both teams on both sides are looking real hot right now. Compared to their opponents. I really do think so, I know a lot of people be, hyping up about, Patty Mahomes, but, I think he's phenomenal, but it's just, it's hard to just keep on, continue to hit the finals over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And he's got that ankle injury.
I just don't think I don't think he's going to hit. Yeah, he's not going to meet his opponents in the Super Bowl. I'm going Cincy Eagles. What about you, Zach? How you feeling about this?
Yeah, I'm going Cincy as well. I think Carter nailed it on the head with that high ankle sprain. I don't think he's going to be able to make some of the throws that he normally can. Granted, Mahomes is known for doing all those circus throws, so I think that if anyone can do it with a high ankle sprain, it is Patrick Mahomes. Unfortunately, I think that Joe Burrow is the better quarterback in this matchup. I think that he's just phenomenal. As much as I hate Cincinnati, he's just so good. Then I'm going to disagree with you. I think that the Niners come in and disappoint the Eagles fan base that think they're going to get back there.
So you think Brock Purdy? Oh, you think Brock Purdy got it, huh?
I am a Brock Purdy fan, and I do think that he has proven himself in big moments. Like no competition is too big, all the way from high school, college, into the NFL.
That is true.
He's always been.
I have to say that's a big thing. for someone like him and the 49ers to beat the Cowboys, this is Mr. Irrelevant we're talking about. Listen, by all means, honestly, Zach, listen, I'm rooting for them as well. I really am. I mean, both sides, honestly, I think they're both phenomenal teams. I got a buddy from Philly. That's why, I've been supporting the Eagles. And I love Jalen Hurts just because of his story. And honestly, it's kind of crappy that he kind of had to leave Bama, because of Tua. It was like two hot players. You had to choose one. Nick Saban chose Tua, so he had to go to Oklahoma. So that's why I love Jalen Hurts. So it's a battle of one guy that I've been watching and then one guy that I just, kind of found out about. But he's an underdog. He's a huge, huge underdog, as, I just said. Mr. Irrelevant we're talking about. So it's going to be a good game. But I do have to say, on the other side, we both agree it's a Bengals game. But, Carter, what about you? How you feeling about this?
I'm gonna stick with Zach. I got Bengals Eagles as well. I'm a big Joe B fan. I'm sorry. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Well, y'all just look so similar. So it's easy to get
the
y'all.
resemblance is shocking.
Right. No, but I got Eagles Bengals as well. I'm a big Joey B fan, and I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan too. Like Musab said, his story's real cool, and he seems like a nice dude. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough. The 49ers are really good, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Kansas City win as well. Because you can't really bet against Patrick Mahomes.
It's kind of wild because there's not a quarterback. Well, okay, I don't like Patrick Mahomes, but not for Patrick Mahomes. It's like off the field stuff with Mahomes why I don't like him. Like, not to bring specifics, but there's certain people around him that I don't like. So it's like he's the only quarterback that I don't like, and it's not for anything he's done personally. So it's weird. Like, had Dallas still been in, I'd have been like any team but Dallas. That's all I want to win. I think this is the first time I can honestly say, like, I don't care who goes to the Super Bowl. I'm just excited to watch. I think no matter what the matchup is, Kansas City, San Francisco, Kansas City Eagles, Cincy, and whoever, like, I think it's going to be a good game no matter what.
For sure. This is the first time in a while I felt like the fourth
that's what it is for me, guys.
Yeah.
It's the fact that, like Patty Mahomes is the only really returner in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy. You know what I'm saying? We got Joe Burrow, who's back at it right now. But now it's a little Chiefs, Chiefs-Bengals matchup. We'll see how that goes. That's real interesting. And it's just, honestly, I think for me, this was the year that really stamped it, which said that, times have changed.
Yeah.
The young Bucs have come through, and I think Patty Mahomes is still a young Buck. He's just been popping off so much that he's already been seen as top tier, whatever. That's another story, but it's gonna be different. As you said already, Zach. Kansas City, even if Kansas City wins, we're still going through a really interesting quarterback. Whether Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts wins, it's going to be real interesting for sure. And that's what I love about, what's going on right now in the playoffs. It's the Final Four. It's the best. We got Patty Mahomes being a little big brother, whatever. We got Joe Burrow, Mr., little middle brother with the experience. And we got Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, who are like, holy shit, okay, well, look where, we've reached. So this whole semifinals, conference championships, it's going to be real interesting for sure. So honestly, as you said, Zach, long story short, I'm just excited just to see what's going on because it's not your little typical story. And it's not really about the upsets, but just about what's been going on throughout the season. That's what I love and hate about football is, these ups and downs with every single team. And at the end of the day, it just matters, who wins that Vince Lombardi.
For sure. And, speaking of ups and downs, that's a perfect way to transition into, unfortunately, talking about the Bucs.
You said downs. That's what.
Right. Yeah. So, we talked about the rest of the league, which was definitely fun and, a lot more lighthearted than what we're about to talk about with the Bucs.
Yeah.
Fortunately, depending on your point of view, of course, but Byron Leftwich was officially fired this week by the Bucs. Long time coming. A lot of people think, there are reports that people wanted him gone, or the higher ups, the front office wanted him gone earlier, but Todd Bowles was like, no, we're going to stick with him. Regardless, that's neither here nor there. We're in the present, and he's gone. He's been fired. So how are we feeling about this, Zach? I saw you pump your fist a little bit. You're very excited. So we'll start with you. We're enthusiastic enough, so you get first shot at complaining about Byron Leftwich.
Could not be happier. Should have been sooner. Should have been fired at midseason. This offense looked like trash all season. I know I've seen reports that Bruce Arians is upset, very mad that all the coaches that were fired. Well, Bruce, as much as I appreciate you for everything you did, you're no longer really a member of Tampa either. So, to me, I feel like it was well overdue. I'm disappointed that it was just Leftwich as far as coordinators and actual coordinators and coaches go, because I think that Bowles should have been following them right out the door. But I'll see what Bowles can do next season with the competent offensive coordinator, I guess.
For sure, it's all about small victories. Got to take what you can get.
We'll win the battle. We haven't won the war yet, but we'll win the battle.
Right. Musaf, how about you? How are you? A little more well, I don't want to say disappointed because I don't think any of us are disappointed. But what are your initial thoughts on this Byron Leftwich firing?
Well, I'm going to be honest. For me, I have a lot of mixed feelings. First being said is the fact that we always needed changes. Throughout this whole season, especially starting mid-season, realizing who we are and what we've been doing. It was a really ugly season, honestly. Long story short, I have a buddy who was a Giants fan, and he was like, listen, man, we scraped by. We made the playoffs. As sad as it is that we lost, I mean, we scraped by, and I was thinking, you know what? Same thing. I told him, I said, you know what, man? I feel the same way. Now that you say that, I feel the same way about the Buccaneers. We barely scraped by. There's a lot of changes changes needed to be made. We deal with injuries, but it's just, I don't know, when you're given so much time to really fix these issues, you identify these issues in the beginning of the season, with this whole offensive line and other issues like with the DBs and all that. We talk about some certain issues over and over and over again, us fans overall just know about these things. And it just makes me think, how much do we really prioritize this, Carter and Zach? How much is the offensive coordinator focusing on this? Listen, I mean, I could go, I'm not going to go too in depth or whatever, I don't really have that much knowledge. But what I will say is, changes are needed to be made. And for that reason, I support this. I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, get the hell out of here, Byron Leftwich. But then again, I don't know. He's had his time as well. This is not like it's his first year or something. So when you already kind of been adjusted to the system, you have to, be able to kind of change some things around and work it to the best of your ability. Listen, man, it's tough. It's a competitive, world out here. So if you can't do your job, then, someone will replace you, period.
I mean, I kind of want to touch on that because you did say it's not his first year. Unfortunately, I think that this maybe kind of proved that this was his first year actually calling plays. I think that I think that Bruce Arians maybe was not the offensive coordinator, but I think that he was calling a lot of the plays, and I think that led to Leftwich showing kind of really what he's about, and maybe not. Maybe he should have taken the Jacksonville job last year, and
Zach, what you're saying is, Zach, honestly, I literally know exactly what you're saying. I work in the healthcare field, and this is how it is, right? The head honcho surgeon or doctor, he runs the show, and when he was running the show, we won the Super Bowl. He says, whatever, I don't know, for whatever reason, he said, I'm going to step aside. I can still, share my advice, but I'll let the younger guy pick up take my role. That's what happened. You know what I'm saying? Head honcho, and that's why, as what you're saying, Zach. With the whole Leftwich situation, that was more like a little training. That was like his little intern year. Honestly, he was just interning last year. Under Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is not some random ass guy. Who just comes out of nowhere, who's only had a couple of years under him or something.
Yeah, what, coach of the year twice before?
Exactly.
Before
So
Tampa,
for that reason, you listen. You do what you can, but you still, revise to him because of. Listen, this is how it works in all fields of work. There's in certain departments, or when you're on a team like the Buccaneers, when you have someone like Bruce Arians running the show, you have to show your respect, and his thoughts are valued, his game plan is valued, and that's why it was Byron Leftwich's intern year. And I think I don't know, I think maybe honestly, I think Bruce Arians is like, what, maybe just maybe Todd and Byron are ready to run the show, and for that reason,
exactly
how it worked out, but it didn't result out too well. There's just, honestly, it's just all across the board. I don't just want to throw the flamethrower on just the coaching situation. It's just overall what we've been doing. So I want to leave it on that note. As I don't want to put too much just on the coaching staff and with this whole Byron Leftwich staffing, but I do have to say, gentlemen, my thoughts are that we're going to have a very interesting offseason regarding news and even this podcast. Honestly, I think some random things are just going to pop up or whatever. I don't know what the hell is going to happen, to be honest. But we are, it's reached a point where, the top tier team is now needing to restructure.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was like y'all were saying, definitely a tough thing to watch someone just ram their head against the wall and not make any adjustments as the season goes on. And you would have thought, like you said, Musab, in his internship, as you like to call it, which is it's a funny way of putting it, but it's certainly not inaccurate. During that time, you would have thought that he would have picked up on the fact that, hey, guys make adjustments, people make changes, it's not just the same thing over and over again. I mean, Einstein said the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And, there was certainly a certain amount of that this season with Leftwich. So, yeah, it was difficult to watch. Obviously, he's part of the Super Bowl run, and, you never want to see anyone get fired. But, it's unfortunately, that's reality. You're not getting the job done. Unfortunately, got to move on. Things aren't working out. It's kind of a cutthroat business. So, yeah, it's tough to see. But saying all of that, they now have an opening. They now have a job to hire. There are a lot of very qualified coaches, a lot of great offensive minds out there that just need to be given a chance at play calling. So with that, all that being said, who are kind of y'all's picks? Maybe some candidates you'd like to see brought in for interviews. They can be former head coaches, college coaches, lower tier coordinators or coaches in the NFL. Whatever y'all think. Who's the first kind of names that come to y'all's mind? Zach, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, I know that we've had 3 people interviewed already. What is it, Jim Bob Cooter or whatever his name is, Kubiak and McCardell, however you pronounce his name. The only one of those 3 that I would be happy with is Cooter, because really, I mean, he's in Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he had one of the best. That offense took steps ahead with Jared Goff as their quarterback. So if I had to pick, ideally, not counting those guys, I've said it before, Cliff Kingsbury, I think, would be an amazing offensive coordinator in the NFL. I know that he's not. It seems like he's not interested in a job right now. I think he's in like Taiwan or something, having a good time. So a guy like Kingsbury is probably my number one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kingsbury was one of the first names I thought of, for sure. Yeah, I mean, they've already, like you said, they've already interviewed Kubiak and Jim Bob Cooter, which, just name alone, you got to go Jim Bob, right?
Exactly.
Right. There are definitely some guys with some really cool names. Another guy that I thought of, Stump Mitchell from the Browns. He's their running game coordinator. And,
Another
Nick
great
Chubb.
name.
Yeah, it's a great name. I think it's a nickname, but still, great nickname.
I'll
And
take it.
exactly. And, he seems like a really up and comer. I mean, that Browns offensive line, their running game, top notch. And for a team with the worst running game in football last season, maybe bringing in a guy like that might not be the worst idea. Plus, Todd Bowles, a defensive-minded head coach, he's obviously the guy picking the offensive coordinator. So, he wants someone that's going to be able to run the ball, milk the clock, give his defense some time. So, that might be someone they look into. But like you said, they've already interviewed a couple guys in Cooter and Kubiak. But Musab, how about you? You got some different names, maybe some different guys that you'd like to see brought in for this offensive coordinator position?
For me, I mean, just been looking at, the candidates and all that. For me, it's the guy that kind of, I guess maybe stood out a little bit as, the former Indianapolis head coach, Frank Reich.
For sure.
Just because of his experience. I found out that, he was quite a successful offensive coordinator. For me, it just comes down to experience. No matter who we get, it's just about, seeing what goes on and everything. We're gonna have to make some moves, even with the players and all that. And I want an offensive coordinator who can be influential. Okay, I understand the head coach is the head coach, but I have to say, it is important that the head coach listens to his experience, kind of advisors and all that. You know what I'm saying? So I have a lot of respect for Todd Bowles. I think that he has still a lot to learn. I think that our defense in summary was phenomenal in compared to our offense. And overall, in summary, I have to say that I think we were still very conservative. And for that reason, I think we just need someone else to lay down the hammer on the offensive side. Honestly, I think Todd Bowles, whatever he's doing right now, if he needs to, he can lay down the hammer on the defense even more than usual. But we need someone who can kind of specialize a little bit more on the offense, maybe who also has some more offensive experience. So that's my guy right there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, he had that experience, like you said, in Philly. That was his offensive coordinator run and during the Super Bowl run. And he was phenomenal. I mean, Carson Wentz, he managed to make him look like an MVP candidate. So, if he can do that, then shoot, he's worth an interview for sure. Another guy that I kind of thought of was Joe Brady. He's the QB coach for the Bills. He is unfortunately the former OC for the Panthers, which isn't a great sign, but maybe he just needs a fresh new environment, a new kind of set. I mean, it's not my best pick. It's not my ideal candidate, but it's someone to think of. Him, and then Nathaniel Hackett, another guy that everyone's going to cringe when they hear the name, but he was the OC in Green Bay for a while. He's got a good rapport with Aaron Rodgers. So, clearly he's got something going for him. But regardless.
Now, with, like you say, people might cringe at these names. I think that if you're looking at these, you should cringe more at who we interviewed. Like, aside from Jim Bob Cooter, like, don't get me wrong, I think he'd be a good offensive coordinator. But we interviewed Denver's offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
that offense was
coordinator.
Trash.
Yeah.
Like, so in my head, I'm trying to think, like, where does this even the other guy? I know that he used to be a wide receiver for the Bucs, and he's a coach now, like some coordinator, wide receiver coordinator, or something like that. So I don't know anything about him to trash on him, but I don't want anything to do with Denver at this point.
Fair enough. I feel you. And they had one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL, Denver.
Yeah.
Did. So bringing in their passing game coordinator, I'm with you. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But then again, I also just named Denver's head coach. So, what do I know?
And I know that Eureka's listening, and I apologize in advance to our producer.
He's a big Broncos fan, unfortunately for him. But I'm with you. And this kind of brings me to my next point. This is a team without Brady. That could be without Brady. We'll stop speculating. But, assuming that Brady hasn't made a decision yet, so there's not that draw. It's the same with free agency, and that's going to be the same with this offensive coordinator position. There's not going to be this aura. They're the Bucs, and this offensive coordinator, whoever they bring in, is going to have to coach Kyle Trask, and that comes with its own set of challenges. And the fact that Todd Bowles, he had a very disappointing season. If he has another one, he could be out of there in the second season anyway. So the offensive coordinator that comes in could be gone with him.
Or
new head
has
coach.
a chance to be the head coach.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. Maybe he sees it as a promotion. But regardless, there are a lot more risks and a lot more negatives to this job than there was, say, 2 years ago or last year. So that certainly throws a wrench into it. And that might have something to do with the quality of candidates they've interviewed so far. Because they even requested to interview the Houston Texans offensive coordinator, and he declined. And that's depressing. But regardless, moving on to kind of the next point is, speaking of Brady, do you think that maybe this decision with the offensive coordinator impacts whether he stays or goes? You think it's independent? Do you think he has any say in it? How do the two connect at all? Zach, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the Brady offensive coordinator connection?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Brady's gone no matter what.
Fair enough.
Is kind of the way that I'm looking at it. Now, I've been reading some stuff that's kind of pushed me more towards, well, maybe Brady could potentially be back. But to me, it just feels like if we're putting this on Brady, in my mind, that's not the right call, because Brady's got 1-2 years left max, like if he even wants to play. He could retire now and sail off into the little bit darker sunset than it was last season. It just feels like if we're putting this on Brady and we're taking in Brady's input, that we're setting ourselves up for failure when it's not Brady on the team at quarterback anymore.
For sure, I'm with you. It's definitely it's a win now move, and I think they need to build more for the future. Musab, How about you? Do you feel maybe differently? You think Tom Brady should have a little more input, or are you with me and Zach? You think it's definitely Bucs' decision? They can't wait around for Brady because by then all the good ones might be gone anyways. How are we feeling about the Brady and offensive coordinator connection?
Yeah, I'm going with the second one right there. I think the Bucs got to make a move. I don't know really exactly how to feel with all this Brady kind of situation right now. One thing I'm thinking is, it would be crappy to end on such a weird note. I wouldn't say low, but I wouldn't say high either. You know what I'm saying? So that's why there's one side of me thinking maybe, I guess he should have had some influence, but let's think about it right now, gentlemen. Yeah, he won us a Super Bowl, but I love the guy, but this is an organization that is going to be there forever, and I will be here for quite a while. Hopefully I don't die anytime soon. Fingers crossed. So for that reason, I mean, he's not going to be here for the next, he's not going to be here in I think it's guaranteed he's not going to be here in 3 years or 4 years, right? That's
sure.
All right. But I'm going to be here. All right. My goal is to be here. Hopefully, again, fingers crossed, I don't die before 4 years. But what I'm saying is, long story short, we have to look at the future now. And I already said it before with what the whole offensive coordinator situation is, we have to look, it's just time that, we're more not on the downfall, but, we have some things to fix. Okay. It's hard. It's hard winning the Super Bowl back to back to back. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. It's hard being hot for that long. Only a few teams last, and that happens only a few times. This is not like it happens over and over again, So for that reason, I have to say we just have to make some changes overall. I'm going to be optimistic to the best of my ability during this offseason. But I won't be surprised if we don't make the best moves. It's just part of the process, and we'll see how it is. But I do have to sprinkle a little bit that injuries that bite us in the back. That was a little rather unfortunate. And, just things like retirements, with Ali Marpet and Ron Gronkowski. When it all, conglomerates together, it creates a very mediocre season, and that's what the Buccaneers had.
For sure. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality. Injuries, whether they played a huge part or whether it was a small part, whatever the reasoning is, the reality is they had a crappy season, and, this change has to be made. And, I'm with y'all. They can't wait around for him. They got to do what's best for the Bucs, and, what's best for the Bucs is, just interviewing their candidates, seeing who the best fit is, regardless of who's under center. So yeah, it's definitely tough. But if you're interviewing, if any offensive coordinator candidates are interviewing for this position, and you want to look sharp and you want to look good, check out the RBLR store. If you wear some RBLR gear into this Bucs interview, you're going to get the job on the spot. They won't even interview anyone else. They'll just give it to you. Rocking, whether it's the Rays, the Bucs, the Lightning, the Rowdies, whatever team you're supporting. Oh man, they're going to right then and there, they're going to give you the job. So Nathaniel Hackett or whoever's listening, Jim Bob, if y'all are listening, wear the gear in there and you'll be good.
Or may I just interrupt? Or to all those gentlemen looking to buy their special someone something for Valentine's Day. It's not too late. Come on, gentlemen, we're talking. It's only January 25th as we speak.
Right.
Okay, we got plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
Get you a nice little something for your loved one. All right, and it's 10% off. You already know the promo code is Cannons, CANNONS. You already know. Bless someone with a little RBLR. I mean, you know what? Maybe bless yourself. All right. Maybe you had a long day, a long week, or a long month. I don't know what you're going through, but you need to maybe bless yourself with some RBLR gear. So you already know, as Carter already said, shop.rblrsports.com.
Absolutely. And hey, for Valentine's Day, maybe you're single, maybe you're just trying to cheer yourself up, or something to wear to the date, pull up in the RBLR gear. Whoever you're on the date with, definitely start to love you.
What a great way to start a conversation. You pull up to the date and you're like, oh my God. The girl's like, oh my God, you're a podcaster for RBLR? Like,
and you can lie. We give you permission. You can say you are. You're good. Oh man, but moving on anyways, after that shameless plug, so moving from kind of the coaching's changes that have already happened, there are definitely going to have to be some tough decisions to be made, because the Bucs are very much deep in the cap, and if Brady's not coming back, which we're all kind of assuming he's not, then there's really no reason to build for right now. They got to start looking to the future. They got to start kind of just biting the bullet, toughing it out, white knuckling it, just kind of suffer for a year, let the dead cap sit there and just kind of fester, unfortunately. And, that's just how it be sometimes. We've seen it with the Saints. We saw it for the Eagles with a couple years after they used all their avoidable contracts and such. So that's just the reality. So with all that being said, are there any positions you'd still like the Bucs to focus on, maybe mostly through the draft, because unfortunately free agency is not going to be an option? Are there any positions you'd like to see the Bucs kind of try to hammer down, or maybe add some depth, or maybe replace some guys? Musab, we'll start with you. What are some positions that you'd like the Bucs to focus on this offseason?
Offensive line, of course.
For sure.
And I'm looking at the DBs. That's always been an issue back and forth. We need people to protect our quarterback no matter who it is. And for our DBs, I just want them to be the best that they can be, honestly. I'm always looking for weapons. We had our own issues with injuries and all that. So, for offensive line, I want to say I'm looking for a star, but for the DB situation that I mentioned, I'm just looking for maybe, I love a star as well, but looking for a depth piece. We just have to go through a lot of changes, and we have to figure out, who's the best, and we need to have backups. And even on the defensive end, I'm not going to say the D-line is, all sunshine and rainbows. We need some good backups, but we also need to change our strategy. There's a lot of things to think about if we are going to be the Super Bowl champions, or even make it to the playoffs this far. We just scraped by because of how crappy our division was, honestly. I have to say it, gentlemen. So we have a lot of work to do. It was a mediocre season, but those are my two big focuses right now, is offensive line and DBs, with a little sprinkle of some defensive line. RBs, wide receivers, I think we have it right now. We give it some time, but I don't know. Maybe you snag someone later on in the late rounds. But again, focus offensive line, DBs. Zach, what about you? What you thinking?
Yeah, see, I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think obviously offensive line needs to be addressed, whether it's through free agency or the draft. And defensive back as well could use some touch up. But I think that we're not as set at wide receiver as some people think. we've got guys like Scotty Miller leaving. Well, free agent. I don't know that he's leaving, but he could. Julio Jones. So you think about it really from last year, our starting wide receivers, we have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That's it. So in my opinion, it's probably pretty unpopular, but first round, there's a guy named Jordan Addison who played for USC. Stud. I think his game would pair really well with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who I'm got some other stuff to talk on in a later topic, I guess. but I think a first round guy like Jordan Addison, and I just feel like you can get more diamonds in the rough on the offensive line later in the draft than you can with star players or star positions like wide receiver and quarterback and all that. So I think that all those spots and wide receiver are where we need to focus on.
All right. I like what both of y'all are saying. Definitely, I think they're going to address all three of those positions in the draft at some point in the other.
Yeah.
The real question is just the priority, who goes when. And a lot of that comes down to, who gets drafted before them, who they're targeting, who's on their board, all that, yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, cornerback, wide receiver, they're probably going to have to draft maybe a couple wide receivers because, like you said, that room is just so thin right now with, Evans and Godwin, and I think Tompkins being under contract, maybe those three guys. Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, it's a tough position they're put in. They've really got to fill a lot of depth pieces. And, yeah, wide receiver, corner, offensive line, those are all three really important positions, obviously. And there's a lack of depth. There's really a lack of talent at all at those positions, unfortunately. Once you get past the stars like Carlton Davis and Godwin and Evans, there's really nobody, unfortunately. So, yeah, because Dean's on his way out and Julio and Scotty, like you mentioned, are also likely on their way out. So, yeah, it's definitely a lot of holes, but those are three really solid positions. But with that being said, who of the non-Brady pending free agents, who do you think that maybe stays? There's the major ones, Dean, David, and Hicks, but there are also some maybe not so big names, Keanu Neal, Carl Nassib, William Golston. I believe William Golston's still under contract, but they might restructure his deal.
No, he's a free agent. He's unrestricted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought so, but I don't know why I questioned myself. Regardless, who of those guys, who of the free agents would you like to see come back for the Bucs? Musab, we'll start with you. Are there any guys in particular you'd love to see come back?
For me, it's like Jamel Dean, of course. I'm looking to have him back just because of him being a solid depth piece with our DB unit. He's my number one guy right there that I'll go for just to keep back. It all comes down to the money they're offered and all that. With the mediocre season we had, there's opportunities that these guys can find here and there. Who knows where they go, but I would hate to lose someone like Jamel Dean. Yeah, that's kind of my guy right there. But Zach, maybe you're feeling different. Maybe you're feeling the same. Maybe you got like a offensive guy. What do you think?
No, you're spot on. Jamel Dean is my number one priority this offseason because him and Murphy Bunting are both free agents. I want nothing to do with SMB at this point. I'd rather have Dean. But another, I think, underrated guy who has some of the most upside as a young guy on the free agent list is Keanu Neal. At 27, I think we've given him 1 year to get into this defense, and a lot of people are already kind of dismissing him, saying he's not going to be back. But I think that he's got the highest upside as a young guy in our free agent class.
Right. That's a good point because the safety position is definitely tough because Logan Ryan, he's on a 1 year deal. I think Mike Edwards might be a free agent as well. There's just there's a lot of holes. So it wouldn't be unwise to bring back some guys, restructure deals. But talking about bringing guys back now, unfortunately, we probably got to talk about moving on from some guys because they're in such cap hell, so to speak. Are there any guys that you think maybe are on the chopping block, and regardless of how it happens, whether it's trade, cuts, what have you, Are there any guys that you think that they're not going to be in a Bucs uniform, despite the fact that they're under contract for next year? We'll start with you. Who do you think's kind of on the chopping block?
Ooh, that's a good question. Chopping block wise, honestly, I'm gonna have to just. I'm going to pass it to Zach. Honestly, I don't know where to start exactly. To be honest.
For sure.
No,
Yeah.
honestly, it's just listen. We look at the backups, and if these kind of backups, they get their opportunities and they don't show out, they might as well just cut them or whatever. But the issue that is lying for me is just kind of more chemistry wise / DB. I mean, I don't know, man. On the defensive side wise or offensive line side wise, it's just about maybe saying you did your job, but it's time to let you go. And I guess maybe as the more I'm thinking about this, guys, I'm thinking maybe with the offensive line, we have to let our guys go. It's just it's time to look the best. I guess we in the last couple of years we've scraped on by, or we've done a solid job with our offensive line, but I don't know exactly who to pinpoint it on with their offensive line, but with our backups, I mean, I think we need to make some changes. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys get cut or whatever, or they sign somewhere else. But that's what I'm thinking is. Because I also don't know, what the whole Brady situation is looking like right now. No one does. / I don't feel too optimistic about it. So for that reason, if we're making changes, we need someone to protect Blaine Gabbert and Carl Trask if we're speaking right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
I'll pinpoint a little bit better. Donovan Smith is gone.
Yeah.
Donovan Smith is gone. The thing was, I was thinking about him, but I have to say, I don't know. I don't know. He has his ups and downs, and I'm hoping he has more of an up, but I don't know. Maybe just ups and downs, things that's going a little too out of hand. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go, but I don't know. I'm just thinking about the backups and all that. These guys who've been covering, for Ali Marpet or, while Jensen was out. It's just, I don't know. We have to make some changes. It's just not working out for the best of us. I can feel the pressure going on with Brady, and it just screws everything up. So, I wouldn't be surprised, Zach. But who else?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like, it feels like he's got to be one of them. And then you look at guys like Ryan Suckup, who Todd Bowles has already come out and been like, well, we needed to kick further field goals. So I think a guy like Ryan Suckup's probably gone. Oh, God, who else? I had someone else in mind, but I can't remember off the top of my head now. But I definitely think that Smith – Cam Brate.
Yeah, Cam Brate.
I think Cam Brate
mentioned.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette has been thrown out there a couple of times. So
sure.
I feel like you got that big core group of people who disappointed this year. Donovan Smith has been a return offender as far as disappointing us.
This year.
So he's gone. Suckup, I think, is gone. I think Cam Brate didn't really produce this year. I think that with K.
Honestly, and now that I think about it, even when you watch the highlights and all that, it was some of these, these backup guys kind of coming through here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about it.
But then now to dive a little deeper into something that I could see happening, as much as I don't, maybe I don't mind it. I'm not as high on this guy as most people are, but I could see a guy, one of our wide receivers like Chris Godwin, potentially being traded due to, they have one of those two players, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, are two of the higher cap hits on our team.
For sure.
So I'm siding with Evans because 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons, like he's a Buck and he should be a Buck forever. And Chris Godwin, I'm not as high on him as everyone else is. Not that he's not a great player, because he is a great player. But I think that he has more trade value due to his age, and the injury history is kind of scary. But I could see one of those two being traded for cap issues.
That's a good take, Zach. I like that little Godwin take, because I'm actually, now that I think about it, I'm right there with you with the whole Evans situation. Evans stays here. He keeps on balling out to the best of his ability. And then with Godwin, I wouldn't be surprised if something else happens. He's a star. he's balling, he's looking for another opportunity, then so be it. But it makes me wonder, Carter and Zach. I mean, what if it happens to our other guys, who are the free agent list that we're not really thinking about getting rid of, but more like, these guys are just looking themselves for better opportunities. If they arise, they're just going to ditch us because, they don't have that kind of Mike Evans, kind of status, being that they're a long buck. They got drafted by the Bucs. Some of these guys just pop in here and there forever, or whatever, that's how the game of football is.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, like you mentioned, a lot of the free agency guys are going to have better opportunities elsewhere. And I think you guys mentioned Jamel Dean re-signing, and I'd love that, but I think he's one of them that might have brighter pastures in other areas. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a tough thing to see, but it's unfortunately part of reality. It's part of living in a salary cap world. This isn't baseball.
Yeah.
You can't just spend as much money as you want if you're in a big market, so there's this actual salary cap, so Bucs got to stick to it. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of it for this episode. We've covered kind of a lot. We went through a lot. There's going to be a lot of changes this offseason, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
The Bucs are going through a tumultuous time. They're coming off of a big high with the Brady era, and unfortunately, it's coming to an end. Just like this episode. But
that was good. I like that.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. But thank you all so much for listening, sticking through with this episode. You can find us on social media at RBLR Sports, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, what have you. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well, or wherever you're listening to this show. Spotify, whatever. It's been RBLR Sports. Thank you so much for tuning in, RBLR Nation. And, as always, fellas,
go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.